Every year, thousands of Indians cross glaciers and waterlogged trails to reach a remote cave shrine. The Amarnath temple is located in the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This cave contains an ice stalagmite that is considered to be a physical manifestation of Shiva, a Hindu deity. For most of the year, the cave is covered in snow, but as rising temperatures clear the passes in the summer, authorities let pilgrims visit the shrine. A yatra, or a pilgrimage, is organized, which lasts up to 45 days. This year's pilgrimage is taking place after a gap of 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It started on the 30th of June. The authorities are expecting a record 800,000 Hindu pilgrims at the shrine. More than 60,000 arrived in the first 10 days. But on the 8th of July, an area on the Amarnath Yatra route witnessed a natural disaster. Flash floods triggered by sudden rain swept through makeshift camps where devotees were staying. Rescue teams were immediately rushed to the spot, some using helicopter services. Yet 16 people were killed and dozens were injured.
There was a cloud burst on the side of the cave. The water fell from above and all the tents were washed away. I think we lost a lot. A lot of pilgrims died. Many 200 and 300 of them are still missing.
I just came from there. It was only raining a little when we left. We were surprised to hear that there was a big cloud burst.
200 मीटर आगे बढ़े होंगे तो देखिए बड़ी तेज बड़ा बरसात शुरू हुई.
We were about 200 meters away from the cave and it started raining. Suddenly people started to run. It was chaotic. I saw a mountain coming down. We left and don't know how many were killed.
As rains continued to lash the region, authorities suspended the pilgrimage for 2 days. According to the Indian Ministry of Earth Sciences, the floods at Amarnath were due to sudden cloud formation, an extreme event that could not be forecast in advance.
These are the weather anomalies. These are deviations from the normal observed patterns. Formation of such types of clouds occurs, particularly in the hilly regions as Himalaya, occurs within a very short span of time, and therefore a longer or advanced predictions of such kinds of events may not always be possible.
The area witnessed a flash flood in 2021 as well, on July 28th, but it did not lead to any deaths. Last year, it was reported that the number of weather-related disasters has increased by a factor of 5 over a 50-year period, driven by climate change and more extreme weather. This year, too, nothing has changed. Heavy rains have lashed South Asia this monsoon season. Scores have been killed in the months of June and July due to flooding, landslides and lightning strikes in different parts of India, Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Nature wreaked havoc in another northern state, Himachal Pradesh. Just 2 days before Amarnath disaster, 7 people were feared dead in separate incidents triggered by heavy rains and cloudbursts, leading to flash floods in the Kulu district. The Bias Basin is frequently affected by flash floods, which cause loss of life and property every year. Even in the western part of India, people in Gujarat and Maharashtra are facing the wrath of nature. Heavy rains and overflowing rivers have damaged property, grains, and other food items. Floods are an annual occurrence in the northeastern state of Assam. The Brahmaputra Valley that encompasses the northeast part of India witnesses floods almost every year, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Kachar is the worst-hit district with more than 355,000 people still affected, followed by Moregaon, where over 140,000 people are reeling under the deluge.
All the houses got destroyed in the floods. In my house, the water has reached waist level. How am I supposed to live there? I'm very helpless. But what to do? I don't have any other option. None of us has an option. If push comes to shove, we have to stay on boats. But we are all helpless here. We do not have any alternative. This is our fate. We have to live like this.
All the crops that were being farmed have gone underwater. Nobody was able to harvest the crops and bring them home. Our farm is underwater. I cannot tell how challenging it is for the people here.
Heavy monsoons are a yearly occurrence in Assam, resulting in flooding and landslides, which force residents to flee their homes, often leaving behind their belongings. In May, a small railway station, New Haflong, was completely inundated due to heavy rains and mudslides, impacting the train services for days in the region. Unprecedented rains in the month of July have lashed India's northeastern states and neighboring Bangladesh, killing more than 150 people. According to the United Nations, nearly 7.2 million people have been severely affected by this year's floods in Bangladesh.
It all started with devastating flash floods that began in May. The floods have threatened to disrupt agriculture, infrastructure, and clean water supply. The monsoon brings heavy rain and floods to South Asia between June and October, when rivers swell with waters pouring out of the Himalayas, often bursting their banks. At least a fifth of this low-lying nation of crisscrossing muddy rivers is hit by flooding every year. But extreme weather patterns have become more frequent. Environmentalists warn that climate change could lead to more serious disasters.
Bangladesh has been known for fighting cyclones every year, and the number and the frequency of cyclones has been increasing. But this flood in Bangladesh, especially in the northwest region, the Sylhet area that presently it is reeling under, has been unprecedented. It has not happened in the recent years.
I only managed to harvest 1/3 of my paddy from underneath my flooded field. The rest was washed away. It's been 2 weeks since there was sun. Excessive rain has devastated whatever I managed to collect. I can't dry this up. It's rotting and I'm appalled.
Farmers like Bashir have to risk their lives to save their precious harvest. Bangladesh ranks 7th among countries most affected by extreme weather in the past 2 decades. Rising sea levels and violent flooding are causing waterlogging and high salinity in streams and even soil.
So particularly in the Northeast India and Bangladesh, if you observe the recent precipitation patterns, we witnessed the increased amount of precipitation even during the late summer months, during April to May. And immediately after that, once the monsoon winds started hitting, it also received increased precipitation. And because your soil was already moisture laden and of the precipitation that happened in the late summer month, the surface runoff was quite significant. This is a kind of a vicious circle. A degraded land causes greater surface runoff, and the greater surface runoff even degrades the land further. So the soil loss, soil degradation, as well as the weather anomalies are in a way create a devastating situations for this region.
One of the many effects of flooding is this: soil erosion, or the denudation of the upper layer of soil. The flood water may destroy soil macropores and the soil organisms that create a soil's structure. Soil erosion decreases soil fertility, which can negatively affect crop yields, and it can also lead to more floods. When there is a heavy downpour in mountainous regions, the soil gets washed away towards the plains, which can create heavy layers of sediment that prevent streams and rivers from flowing smoothly.
With more floods, you lose your topsoil. It gets washed off, and there's big, your top layer and sometimes your organic rich content, which helps with agriculture production, gets washed off. And when it happens in subsequently, over time, then the productivity of your soil is highly undermined.
Soil degradation due to flooding is a serious concern. In India alone, nearly 14 million hectares of land becomes degraded due to flooding annually. But what can be done to prevent it?
I think preventive measures, of course, rehabilitating nature in any case, reduces the level of damage floods or erosion can result in. So basically, there are physical infrastructure you can do. You can have on embankment, so a wall with that can only let through water and retain the soil. Is something you can have as a structure. With more vegetation, the roots will strongly attach to the soil, so the soil is not easily washable. So you can plant trees in that landscape to ensure that it's not washed off easily. With terracing, you also follow contours for production, so that when water floods comes, then you have intermediate step-like structures that will retain some of the soil while the water goes.
Climate change is also hurting China's pursuit of food security. Last year, the country was battered by record-breaking floods in the central province of Henan. This year, too, there is not much relief. A nationwide warning was recently issued by the government after months of torrential rains and floods, the worst for some in more than a century. The statement read, "All of China must prepare for potential disasters as this year's flood season reaches a pivotal period." Since the flood season began in March, the average rainfall is 10.7% higher than normal in China. It has doubled in some parts of the south. Rain in the Pearl River Basin in the southern province of Guangdong is at its highest on record. The floods have submerged farmland, interrupted power and communications, affected roads and destroyed homes. Emergency response teams had been deployed throughout the country to administer relief. Record-breaking rain in some regions this year has highlighted the challenges China faces as it tries to adapt to climate change, with temperatures also reaching fresh highs. Australia, a country that suffered the harshest wildfires in its recorded history not too long ago, is now reeling under widespread flooding. This rescue team helping people to escape rising floodwaters also saved a kangaroo in northern New South Wales. Many large farm animals, up to their necks in floodwaters around Sydney, had to be rescued by emergency crews as torrential rains batter Australia's east coast. This is Australia's third major flooding episode this year. More than 85,000 people in New South Wales have been asked to either evacuate or warned they might receive evacuation orders. The visuals are heartbreaking. The evidence is clear. Floods, droughts, and heat waves herald a changing climate. The planet is facing a dire crisis. World leaders celebrated reaching a landmark climate change agreement in Paris in December 2015. Is it working?
Countries have put in their commitments on paper, but in terms of implementation, there's little that's happening. And also, there is a target, we don't want to go beyond a 1.5 degree temperature increase. That's what we're aiming for in this climate change global discussions. And the commitments so far would still result in global temperature increase beyond the 1.5.
When we are talking about the extreme weather events and particularly the floods, I would say the global community needs to at least wake up to these challenges and identify ways and means to, one, mobilize the climate finance that has been promised, and two, deliver that climate finance to the countries that are in need of it. Unless we provide the capacities and required finance to these small island developing states as well as developing countries, we will not be able to witness a robust climate adaptation across the world.